Alrighty team, good morning. Welcome to episode number 45 of the RDO podcast with Alex and Jason Von Kennel, the Auto Bros, coming at you, not live, from a Saturday morning. Beautiful Saturday morning. Now, we've got a massive show for you today. A lot of stuff going on. We're going to be talking about, so we both had our 3-month DEXA scans.
Yeah, and we've not spoken about them.
We've not spoken about them, so we're going to go through the results live for you guys. I'm going to give you a brief update on my ear stuff and the BPPV because I had a physio session yesterday, which was really, really interesting. We'll briefly touch on State of Origin as well. Obviously, big game on Wednesday night. Very interesting result. But first, the most interesting thing that's happened in the past week, I want you to take the floor, Alex, because you had a very, very interesting story to discuss.
Welcome, everyone. Dude, what a week. What a week. So, we've spoken in the past about the issues that I've had with property investment, and I've illustrated up until the point that serves you right for putting in that cup, but not the one that I issued you this morning. So
almost burnt my lips off,
so
just for anyone
that's stupid.
Who's just listening.
Mine's nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the locks changed in my house 2 weeks ago as part of the process after it goes to QCAT.
So anyone who missed that episode, just
long and
give
short,
us a brief.
I have a house on the Gold Coast. The tenant stops paying rent for 2 months behind. It goes to, so we send a notice to leave. He says no, I'm not leaving. So it goes to QCAT, which is a tribunal that looks after this type of thing. He didn't show up at the tribunal, which is a good thing, because if he would have rocked up, they probably would have just sided with him, but he didn't. So they said, okay, you've got to leave, and here is your notice of. Oh, now I've just lost it. It's a notice of
Eviction?
No. They don't do eviction notices here. It's called a warrant of possession.
Right, for the property.
For the property.
Yeah.
So that's basically me and the police and my property managers getting my property back. Mm-hmm. It's got a certain date on it, and within that date, we can talk to them and say, okay, you've got till this date to get all your stuff out. Anyway, he was supposed to be out 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And then on Tuesday this week, I met my property manager there at 9 o'clock to do a inspection. Yeah. So you always inspect your properties after a tenant has been in there, just in case there's any damage or anything, or anything that needs work on before you put new tenants in.
Yeah. And obviously you're going to have to make an insurance claim based on the things like the unpaid rent and stuff already. Sure. So you got to look through the whole property, make sure there's anything else that you need to roll into the same claim.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we get there, 9 o'clock on the dot. My property manager pulls out his shiny brand new keys because that's the only set in existence. Yep. And
your locks.
Brand new locks.
Yep.
Walking to the property, there's stuff everywhere. And we knew, we'd both done drive-bys. We knew that there was still stuff out the front.
Yeah.
Open the door, take 3 steps in, and I say to my property manager, someone's still here. And she goes, no, he's been out for 2 weeks. I said, well, the lights are on in that back room, the lights are on in the hallway, and I can hear the shower going. And then there's his clothes on the floor. I'm like, okay, let's get out of here. So we get out and call the police. And it's a 000 call now because now it's
break and enter.
It's break and enter.
Yeah.
So the police come 10 minutes later, full noise, sirens on. And this is where, to me, it gets strange.
Right.
So that part was pretty strange.
Yeah.
But this is where I think it gets really strange. So the police walk in. Now, in the meantime, in the 10 minutes that I'm waiting for the police to arrive, I'm standing on. There's a shared driveway between the unit 2. Mm-hmm. So I'm standing facing the properties.
Yeah.
And my property manager is facing me and the street.
Yeah. So just to so people can visualize this. So it's 2 units. So Alex owns both the units of both rental properties. There's a front unit and a rear unit, and the shared driveway goes down the right-hand side to the back unit. But there's also a back door for Unit 1 down that driveway as well.
Yeah, so it's a common driveway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm talking with my property manager, and I see a head poke out. And then I'm like, oh, I think I've just seen him. So he's definitely there. Mm-hmm. So the police come around. They come and talk to us first. We tell them the situation. Locks are changed. warrant of possession, the whole lot. You know, it's court ordered.
Yeah.
They walk in. 5 minutes later, they walk back out again, but without the guy. And I'm like, okay, that's strange. I would have thought they'll just take him away.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, he's saying he's never accessed the property. He was out the back hosing. And I said, okay, check the shower. He said he wasn't having a shower. He's never accessed the property. He's been on the outside and he's got till 5 o'clock today to remove all his items off the property.
Was he wet?
I didn't see him. I didn't see him like that. I
Right.
didn't see him close enough. And I said to the police, okay, well, go check the shower then. So they go back inside. Yeah, the shower's wet. And the towels are wet. And the floor's wet. But he's saying that it's a damp room and it just takes a while for things to dry.
2
and
weeks.
I said, 2 weeks. And the property manager goes, we've had no problems with ventilation. That's got a fan, like an exhaust fan in that bathroom. You know, we've lived in that property before.
Yeah.
No problem with that. Okay. So I said, can we access the property? I actually want to go inside and have a look. He goes, yeah, we'll come in with you. And so me trying to be a bit like a bit detective, I'm looking for clues. Right? The police are looking for clues too. One of the police thinks that, because we checked all the doors.
Yeah.
And the doors are all locked.
Okay.
And the police looking outside, and he goes, does that roof tile look funny? Some of the grout around one roof tile is missing, and it's like it's fallen, like the grout's fallen away, and it's sort of 2 meters away, like down the roof.
Right.
So it's like that's pretty fresh. I'm like, yeah, and he's like, and there's your manhole cover, the manhole cover, and there's a table underneath. So I'm checking for footprints on the manhole cover. Couldn't see any. But my detective brain goes, how long does it take for like vitamin C to go bad? Like, what do you mean? Like, well, there's a fresh orange, peeled orange on the ground in one of the rooms that is glistening with juiciness. And anyway, so basically nothing happens on that day. The police say to the guy, you've got till 5 o'clock, we're going to swing past tomorrow, and if you're here, you're going to jail.
So, when he said he was hosing out the back, was there any water out the back?
Yes, he was hosing. So the guy's smart. The guy's really, really smart. So I think he heard the allegation.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So he knows that he was in the shower, for example, and goes, okay, I've just been busted. What do? I exit the property.
Yeah.
I turn a hose on so I can say that's what the noise of the water was. And then I have broken one less law.
Yeah. So obviously a few things. Number one, this ain't his first rodeo.
No.
But number two, like, the thing that still gets me about the whole thing is he still wasn't supposed to be on the property 2 weeks later.
Yeah. But for some reason, that's out the window. So anyway, then I also mentioned to the police too, if he poked his head out on that side, the right-hand side of the house, and he was hosing on the left-hand side of the house, there's only 2 ways to do that. 2 ways to get from the right-hand side, where I saw him, to the left-hand side where the police found him. And that is to either walk down the driveway towards the street, past us, into the front gate, and out the side. Or the second option is through the property.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is that not, that's proof enough? Anyway, my feeling was that there was no way the police could pin him down to being that guy being inside that property.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the police showed up. You could have just walked inside, turned the shower on yourself. Like, it was your word against his.
Yeah.
So you could have easily entered the property, tried to catch this bloke out, turned the shower on, and then fabricated that story to try to get a result. So I could see where the police are sort of coming from with it.
Yeah, and I get that too.
But the other thing too is he would have had enough time to go around and lock all the doors from the inside as well, because obviously he only had to enter that roof tile once to be able to then just unlock maybe the back door on the inside, and then he can just come and go as he pleases for the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
So it gets to the point where, this is another wild part too. He knows his rights, I think, definitely better than what I know, definitely better than what my property manager knows, and I think better than what the police know.
Yeah.
He was so confident in himself. He's sitting in the front yard amongst all his shit, and like just a yard full of crap. Looks like a wrecker's yard.
A wrecker's yard would have been more organised.
Yeah. And he while the police are saying, so what's your plan to get all this stuff out? Because you're not moving. Like, you're not doing anything. So what's your plan to get out? And he's like, yeah, I'll be out. I'll be out at 5 o'clock. Yeah, okay, but have you got a truck coming? Have you got a van coming? Have you got a trailer coming? Yeah, trailer. Yeah, I've got a trailer coming.
Yeah, okay.
He's just checking the boxes that he needs to check.
And he could easily just say, yeah, I'll be out at 5 o'clock, as in him physically out at 5 o'clock when the police go and check, and I'll be back at 5:30.
Yeah, you didn't say I couldn't come back.
Yeah, that's right.
later.
Yeah, I said I'd be out at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
You told me to be out at 5 o'clock, I was out at 5 o'clock.
So, we also know that... So I leave. By that point, I said to my property manager, there's no use, like what do we do? Look, there's nothing we can do until at least 5 o'clock tonight, so I'm out of here. Then I thought, okay, I'll get a couple of people that are nearby, just to do a drive-by, yourself included, just to see if the stuff is gone. Mm-hmm. Was the stuff gone?
No.
No.
So I did a drive-by the next morning. Are we going to the next morning yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I the next morning, I was in the area anyway, because I was going to visit. I was dropping Nate off at Amanda's mum's place. And so I thought I'd go and do a drive-by just to see if any of the stuff was gone or the bloke was still there. So when I get there, sure enough, all the stuff's still there. And like, there's a lot of stuff. There's a boat.
Yeah, like a tinny. There's 3 industrial fridges that were still connected to power, that were on when I was there.
Yeah.
There is building supplies, there's paint, there's a dirt bike.
It looks like just a series of items that he's just pilfered from building sites or other places and just stored them in your house. Like, I don't even know if this guy legally owns any of this stuff.
But sell them and pay me rent.
Yeah, but why would he do that when he can just not pay you rent and live there forever anyway?
Yeah.
So I actually sat up the road. I felt like I was on like a covert stakeout because I'd actually...
You're peeking a bit.
Well, I had switched cars with Amanda's mum.
Yep, smooth move.
So I obviously had a different vehicle. I parked up the road so he couldn't... And it was so interesting because I just sat there for... It was probably 45 minutes that I sat there watching this guy. And it looked like... So... When I had gotten there, the boat had been moved from inside the property to outside on the street.
It was actually chained to the street sign.
To the giveaway sign,
yeah.
Which,
is illegal.
There's another funny story behind that too in regards to the council and how their rights are different to yours. But his car was parked on the driveway but outside the gate. So that had been like an improvement from the day before. And it was full of stuff. And I called Alex at the time and I was saying, like, it looks like he's making an effort to move. Because all he was doing, I literally sat there for 45 minutes, and he was just doing slow laps of out to the car, back into your yard, out to the car, back into your yard. But he was never moving items between the two places.
Jason was telling me he's got one item in one hand, and he's walked to the car, he's opened the car, and he's put that one item inside the car.
Yeah.
Okay, now he's moved to another part of the car, he's grabbed another item
Yeah.
and he's walked back into the house.
So it looked to me like he knew that there was a chance the police would come and check up on him that day, and if it looked like he was making an effort to move his stuff out, he would have been in the clear.
Yeah.
That's how it appeared to me.
That's what I sort of thought.
Yeah, so that was Wednesday morning, and then during the course of the day, like I went back past again in the afternoon because I went to pick Nate up and switched cars again because I switched back to the family car, and it did not appear any different.
Then my dad did a drive-by and he noticed something that I hadn't even thought of. He'd actually reversed the car into the gate, so his tow bar was interlocked into the gate, like the bars of the gate, effectively locking the gate.
Right.
Yeah. So, and he's put a deadlock on the gate too.
Yeah.
My gate.
Yeah.
He's put a deadlock on my gate.
He saw your changed locks and raised you another changed lock.
Yeah. How can you access your fancy new locks if you cannot access the doors themselves?
Yeah.
And then it gets even wilder. So I got jacketed by this point. So I ring the police again. The police did not want to help. So I didn't ring 000.
Take a step back though, because the police had actually gone by the night before.
No,
right?
This was that night, I think. This was that.
No, I thought it was the night before.
Sorry, you're right.
So the police did say that they were going to go back and see at 5 o'clock, and apparently endeavoured to do that. but got
They
called
did.
to something more
No,
pressing.
they
at the
did
time.
go because I got missed calls on my phone.
But that was at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, 11:30.
So they tried to go at 5 o'clock when they said they were going, but they got diverted to something else that was more
Yeah, okay.
important, and then went back later. Now then, Alex gets missed calls from an unknown number at 11 o'clock at night.
Dude, I go to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I've got do not disturb on.
And the thing is, you never got, who's answering an unknown number at 11 o'clock at night?
Oh, no, I
anyway?
do because I'm still adamant that I want to get one of these Amazon. I want to talk to someone at the Amazon prank center.
Yeah.
I want to talk to them.
You must be such a broke ass that scammers aren't even trying to get money out
No,
of you.
they're trying all the time. This is what is annoying me, especially about the Amazon one. Slight tangent. That the Amazon fraud thing, which is automated, already knows that I'm not going to fall for it. So stop trying the same thing. Like, hit me with something else. So just cancel that. Now you're just wasting my time and making me annoyed. But your intention is to get money. So now hit me with another scam. Even if you change the voiceover from Amazon to, this is your eBay account, you are outstanding of 36. Hit me with something else. Give me something fresh.
Yeah, but even scammers know that you can't get blood out of a stone. Anyway, let's get back to the actual story. So yeah, they had been there at 11 o'clock the night before and tried to call you. And the reason being was when the police had showed up at the property, there was lights on inside the property. They knocked on the front door. No one answered, funnily enough. But because they didn't have a key, they couldn't actually gain entry to the property.
Yeah.
So they're trying to call you to see if you could get a key.
So then the next day I get Jack again. I ring the police. I'm like, dude, the guy's still there. He's breaking and entering and he's staying.
Yeah.
Right. Let's do something about it. And the next step is the property manager organised with the police and 2 trucks to rock up there, pick up all this stuff, and go to the dump.
Yeah, take to the tip.
Yeah. So that happened on Friday. I don't know. He was actually out. Like, it seemed to be that he was out all day yesterday.
Yeah, so today's Saturday, so we're talking about Friday when we say yesterday. I had driven past at about lunchtime because I had my appointments in Ashmore, so I'd driven past on the way home, and he wasn't there when I got there. And you had told me that at that point the real estate had already been there with the trucks and removed a whole bunch of stuff. There was still heaps of shit in there.
Yeah.
Nowhere near as much. So I don't know how big the trucks were. It's probably a question to ask, but the guy wasn't there. But I had a wander around the property. It looked like, from what I could see through the windows, that everything had been pulled out of the house. So there was nothing in the house anymore. There was still a lot of stuff in the front yard and behind at the back door. But there's also still dogs out the back.
Yeah.
As well.
Another wild thing was when I walked in the property on Tuesday, there was wardrobe doors that were missing.
Yeah.
And then there was other random doors in the hallway. And he's like, oh yeah, no, I just took them off and I'm painting them to put them on. And I'm saying, no, they're like front doors because they've got different interlocking systems. And I don't think they're going to fit. So he's like, no, that's for them. I just painted them up and they're going to go back on. So they stay. Yeah, on Thursday they were out the front.
Yeah,
because
they were out the front yesterday as well. They're still there.
Yeah, so my door's being stolen, currently being stolen.
But are they actually your doors?
I don't think they are my doors.
I think they're stolen doors from somewhere else.
But where are my doors? Is my question. Where are my doors?
You sold your doors.
I have 3 doors. Where are my doors?
You sold your doors to buy a tinny. So it's been an absolute farcical shit fight, to be frank.
Yeah. Now look, do I have sympathy for the bloke? The bloke's probably got nowhere to go because 0.7% retail occupancy on the Gold Coast, so he's probably got nowhere to go. And I cop that for sure. But what I don't cop is when I go down there and I realise there's probably 15 grand's worth of stuff here, and sometimes you've got to sell stuff to pay your bills.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've had this conversation during the week. I don't cop the sob story because if the sob story is legit, you show up to QCAT and you tell your sob story, and they side with you. The fact that he didn't show up to QCAT, I don't buy a sob story.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he appears to be a single bloke. Like, it's not like he's got a family and a baby or something like that you're throwing out on the street. And
No, he told my property manager he's got a son.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen him. He's not on the list. Like, there's no evidence that this person exists, but he said he's got one.
Yeah, I think he's referring to the planet that he lives on has a sun it revolves around.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't finish so the wild thing was when the police were there on the first time on the Tuesday. and he's telling him, yeah, I've got a trailer coming up. He's just sucking on an icy pole. At 9:30 in the morning. He's looking at the cop sitting on his shit. Just going, yeah. Yeah, 5 o'clock, I'll be out. He did not.
The icy pole that he was storing in his industrial freezers that was still plugged into the front yard.
A hole was cut in the mesh screen for the kitchen, and the cable was run inside. So who turned that on? And this is the thing. So like, and I didn't notice that.
Obviously, your property manager did. That's standard practice.
Like, and the police just keep saying, well, we can't prove that he was inside there.
Yeah.
Oh, so did the cable fall into...
It must have.
Yeah.
No, but you just went and planted all that stuff to try to get this guy in trouble. That's what you did.
Yeah.
But that's what, when I went there yesterday, I was hoping, because I walked in with you on the phone, but I had my phone out, so I'm hoping that he's in the house and I can at least catch him on camera.
Yeah. That
he's in the house. So, then you've got actual evidence that it's a break and enter. But... yeah, it's
wild, man.
It's just... well, even that... so just go back to Tuesday for a second. Can you imagine if he wasn't in the shower and what potentially could have happened? Because if you would have walked in and let's say that he's on the couch with a couple of mates, that's a problem.
Any altercation would have been a bad altercation and highly risky, and I'm not 18. And
no, but it's even legally highly risky because you've already seen how much the police have tried to... it's not that they're erring on his side, but you can see how difficult it is when it's a he said, she said scenario.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible to ascertain who is in the right, who is in the wrong.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it would be so easy for a tenant like that to argue, oh, he tried to evict me, I came back to get my stuff, he showed up and he bashed me.
Well, and I think that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Because ideally, that would probably get him...
money or something.
At
least.
So, are there levels of provocation there? He's just trying to provoke an action. And look, I would say everyone that I've spoken to about this, 90% of the people I've spoken to about this matter, their go-to is send boys around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's like, there's a system in place, there's a process in place. The process seems very slow and very, but there's a right way to do it, and I'm going to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Because I think he knows that's his best out, that's his best opportunity.
Yeah. So this is the council angle I was going to tell you about before. I think what the ideal way of approaching it next time is, because if you leave anything on council land, so the strip outside your property, so I don't know if most people know, but you don't own that land that's out the front of your house, the council does. And if you leave items on that, you can get fined by the council, and the council will usually remove it and bin it or sell it or whatever, depending on how valuable the item is. So what I find so frustrating about this whole thing is your front yard within the gate literally looks like a tip. There is so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
It literally looks like a tip. But you've had police there, you've had advice from your real estate. There is literally nothing you can do about having that stuff inside your gate.
Yeah.
But if you move that stuff outside the gate, like when the boat got moved outside the gate,
a whole new world.
Yeah, all of a sudden the council's got a problem with it.
Where the council puts a yellow sticker on everything.
Yeah, so what I think we do next time is, instead of sending the boys around to bash the bloke, you just send the boys around to carry all the stuff out the front gate and call the council and say, hey, there's all this stuff out here, and you take photos of it.
Yeah.
And you just forcefully remove it.
Do you know what I didn't realise, which is pretty raw, is in the process for this particular situation with pets, RSPCA take the dogs.
Yeah, well, are they even his dogs?
I don't know. I didn't know he had dogs, because you're supposed to put on I would have allowed dogs.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to at least say that you've got them.
The dogs would be the cleanest animal that live at that property.
Yeah.
But, because, they were still there yesterday. They were out the back.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was on the phone to you, and I walked around the side, and there was a gate there that wasn't normally there. It looked like a newly fashioned gate.
Yeah.
And, there's a couple little dogs in behind it. So those dogs are probably going to a better place.
So it's been a saga, man. So I'm still like... I'm really... coming on my 3rd month of drama with that place. And look, it's not always like that.
No.
But sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And when it is like that, it's real tricky. Like that's been the thing that stand out for me. This entire process has been so difficult because
you just think, you would think that someone's doing the wrong thing, that person gets removed.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. There's so many moving pieces.
Yeah, and it seems to be like that way in a lot of parts of life where the people who play outside the rules tend to win.
Yeah.
And they know the rules and they study the rules, so they know exactly what to do. And like you're saying, those evasive things that he was saying, he's learned that. He's done that before.
For sure.
That's not something that you just think of on the fly, because a normal person, normal law-abiding citizen, answers those questions properly and is actually scared of the police and was like, oh yeah, like you guys are serious. Like I'll get out.
Yeah, it's like sucking an icy pole.
Yeah.
During a break and enter.
Yeah, well, he needed his icy pole because you'd interrupted him from finishing his orange. So
you
obviously needs some vitamin C. Anyway, so that'll wrap that up. But yeah, if there's any other
I'll keep you posted.
events, we'll keep you posted on
developments.
that. So thing number 2, let's go to the scans.
Yeah, boy.
Because it's been 3 months since we got our scans, and
do you want to talk about my testing first?
Oh yeah, you can talk about your testing because you did some different stuff this week, right?
Yeah, so with all the house stuff, I actually didn't go to the gym on Tuesday, and I did a couple of deals on Tuesday as well. So, so your call to me before about blood out of a stone, I'm pretty flush at the minute. Got a cash dog
at the minute.
So
at the minute,
bought myself a new drivey.
I mean, it's only end of financial year, so yeah, it's a pretty difficult time to sell cars.
Not for used cars. That's new car month, mate. I'm selling in a new car month. That's how good I am.
It's all used car months all the time these days.
Yeah, because there's no new cars.
Because there's no new car.
So I went on Thursday, so I've still got I've still got, I think, 2 or 3 exercises left to do.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, I did chin-ups, and I did...
I was just thinking for a second that you can actually use the term chin-ups for what you did.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I can.
That'll make sense in a second.
So I did chin-ups.
Yeah.
I did a cardio one, which was 500 meters on the rowing machine, then 600 meters on the assault bike, and then run all the way down to the end of Bishop Street and all the way back up, timed.
Yep.
And also, what was the other one I did? Oh, squats. Back squats. Back squats.
Yeah.
So barbell
on your back,
squats. So the chin-ups. Chin-ups had to be like a close grip, palms towards your head, not a wide grip chin-up, like a close.
Palms towards you.
Yeah, palms towards you.
See.
Yeah, I did both chin-ups.
he did the minimum requirement to call them ups.
I did both chin-ups. I did.
Yeah. Can I just ask, what's the theory behind doing the palms facing you?
Don't know. That was just...
Is it because they're easier?
Don't know. Probably.
Because they are.
Yeah. Oh, way easier. Yeah. But I did both of
them. Yeah.
Successfully.
Yeah. So successfully completed both the chin-ups.
You could say like one was left and one was right, and then I knew that I could do it.
Yeah. You want to keep your body even.
Yeah. Then I did the squats. Now, I have not done squats basically at all this year.
Yeah.
I've not done any weighted squats. I've done lots of squatting exercises, but I haven't done this formalised back squat.
Yeah, like heavy weight back squat.
Yeah. But I have done them before. And I did 130 kilos.
Yes, that's really good, man.
I was not that impressed with, but only because I based myself off the skinny guy next to me that got me by 10 kilos.
Who's been training for years.
Yeah. Anyway,
who is shorter than you?
No, about the same height.
Same height. I'm trying to give you some excuses.
Yeah,
here.
thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then the 500 row, 600 bike run down the end of the street and back, I did in 8 minutes and 6. Everyone's like, oh, it's got to be sub 10, it's got to be sub 10, it's got to be sub 10. Ben, the guy that I sort of based myself off, he did it in 6, and so I'm better at him on the bike, but he's amazing on the rowing machine and very good runner.
Yeah, okay.
And he looked fresh. I almost died when I got back. But
running's a skill too. As you get older, you start to realise how running is actually a skill.
especially when you have to teach yourself to run again after you've done 130 kilograms
Yeah.
of squats.
Yeah, true.
Because I was running and I was like, oh, do I run like this now? Like this real weird sort of thing about it. I'm like, this is not how I run. And it took me like halfway down the street for me to realise, for me to come good. But yeah, that was brutal. So we've done the testing, and then on Friday, the day after I got my DEXA scan.
Yeah.
So yesterday.
Yeah, so I was planning on doing some testing stuff this month, but because of this Push for Better challenge that I'm doing, it's too hard when you're doing all that volume as well at the same time. So I'll do some stuff next month. Give myself an extra month of training.
So how do you want to announce? I'd just like to give you my DEXA, and you can read it out.
No, let's do this. Look, I reckon what we do, we don't have to go through the whole things, but there's some pretty key metrics that we can look at as far as improvements. And those key metrics, I would say, would be body fat percentage, total amount of body fat that you've lost during the time, total amount of lean mass you've put on during that time, and the bone mineral density.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
That's probably the main things that we're looking at, isn't it?
I think that is the main thing that we're looking at. Is that the main thing that we're looking at?
I believe it is.
I think it is the main thing that we're looking at.
Because going through the specifics of the different body parts and stuff.
There's no point in trying to see that your left trunk is 1 kilo.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Left trunk.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay.
I would agree.
All right, you all heard that.
Okay, so we'll start with body fat percentage. So my body fat percentage was 34.7% at the beginning. Mm-hmm. My body fat percentage is 33.4%. So 1.3% down. Okay, cool. As far as body fat percentage goes. How did you go?
So mine was 28.8. Mm-hmm. Mine is now 27.0. 1.8.
Wow, 1.8% down.
Yeah.
Wow, very well done. Yeah. Well done.
I'm happy with that.
And 27%, that's pretty good. Mm. That's very, very much getting close to where we want to be. My total amount of fat lost during that time is 1.823 kilos.
So mine was mine's written in grams.
Oh yeah, so 1,823 grams is what I lost.
Mine's 1,817.
Smashed you.
There you go.
And my total amount of lean mass that I put on is 442 grams.
Mine was 1,979 grams of
holy
mass.
Shit balls.
Yes, 2 kilos of muscle.
So okay. I was thinking about this because we'll do bone mineral density and then I'll talk about some interesting points. So my bone mineral density, what was it?
Yes. This is the one that I always stuff up.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually listed on. Oh, actually, hold on. I've got it on my phone because they send me the results.
Oh no, mine's here.
Yeah, so you start with yours and I'll pull mine up.
So my bone mineral density was 1.102, and is now.
Is that so? 1.102. Is that the grams per square centimeter?
Yes.
So 1.102.
Yes.
Okay.
And then mine is now 1.111. So I'm up by 0.9, or it's a 0.8% increase.
Okay.
Now the guy who did my test said, he goes, look, it's hard to tell because it's so close. It could be just an anomaly in the in the testing. The only way to really know is to go back in another 3 months, and if it's still going up,
then you know you're moving in the right direction.
But he wants more. He wants a larger increase.
Yeah, because that still puts you as a negative as far as T-score goes, doesn't it?
Yeah, 0.9.
Yeah, so still at a high risk of osteoporosis.
Yes.
Yeah. So my bone mineral density was 1.284 grams per centimetre squared.
Yep.
And my bone density is now 1.325. So it's about 0.040 increase.
Sorry, what increase? Sorry,
0.04.
On 0.04. Oh, okay. But yours is already high.
Yeah,
so that's
my T-scores are 1.2. So I'm in the healthy range.
You're really high up in there,
Yeah. So, what I have found interesting about this stuff, because is there anything else in specific that you wanted to go into? I think those are the main things that we're tracking.
No, that's all that I was tracking.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, total amount of mass put on, total amount of fat mass lost.
I basically swapped 2 kilos of fat for 2 kilos of muscle.
That's unreal, man. And so I was thinking about it even with, with the 442 grams worth of muscle that I've put on. I was like, put it this way, I'm relatively happy with my results all overall because my last 3 months have been pretty well inconsistent because of the illnesses and stuff like that. Like this vertigo thing, it was a month yesterday that it's been affecting me for. And I haven't lifted anything heavy during that period of time. But I thought about it and I was like, 442 grams doesn't sound like much.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't. But then I was thinking, if you go and buy a 400 gram steak, it's actually a pretty big amount of steak. So,
it's not as big as a 2 kilo steak though.
No, it's definitely not. Like that's that's massive.
They put challenges to eat 1 kilo steaks. And so imagine doing 2 of them.
Yeah. So dude, that's huge. Congratulations.
Yeah, he was so. And I'm not one to blow my own horn, and I don't like shitting on it. But the guy even gave me 2 thumbs up on the muscle build. He's like, "That's to go from that to that in 3 months." He's like, "Bam, double thumbs up."
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the first time I've met the guy. Pretty sure he doesn't give the double thumbs up. Just everyone.
I don't know because the teacher at our daycare that we love always talks about how Nate is like her favourite and everything, and we just thought he was special. And then Amanda went and picked Nate up the other day and overheard her having the same conversation with her parent. So maybe he does give the double thumbs up to everyone.
No, because
like you think about it, that's 3 months, 3 months of training, and it's pretty much all you've changed. So you've done training and you've had a bit of protein powder. That's it.
Oh, and reduced alcohol.
Reduced alcohol.
Yeah, those are the only things that I've done.
Yeah. So that's amazing. 2 kilos of lean muscle in 3 months.
I can feel it.
Yeah.
Because Tasha's like, so what made me realise that I knew I was going to have a conversion of fat to muscle. I knew it because I'm doing something.
Well, it's not a conversion.
No, but
you burn fat,
swapped,
and then you swap muscle on.
Yeah, so
because that's an old myth that you can turn fat into muscle.
Yeah,
that's a real old.
That. But because I kept weighing myself, and every time I weigh myself, it just reads the same. But I can physically feel more muscle on me now.
Oh, what's your total weight?
I think it went up a little bit.
See, mine went down. My total weight was...
It depends are you going off the scale? See, they weigh me at 103.4 on the scale.
No, I go off the scan.
Then the scan says...
My scan's 101.7, so I've gone down slightly. I'm down 1.2 kilos.
The scan... Oh, 102.959, which is a cool... That's my motorbike.
There you go.
959.
So you're almost 2 kilos heavier than me now. Oh no, sorry, you're 1 kilo heavier than me now.
Yeah. Muscle.
It's a shame that muscle doesn't translate to chin-ups, does it?
No, but it does literally everything else.
Well, if you do want to get down to some of the other details, what I did find interesting, if you go through all of the different masses in like your legs and your arms, all the different areas, I actually lost muscle in my legs during the last 3 months. And I've purely put that down to, because I've been so sick, I haven't lifted anything heavy. Like, so your back squats, I can't do really heavy loaded back squats at home because I don't have a squat rack. So when I do back squats, it's like 50 kilos that I'll pick up off the ground on the barbell, stick it on my back and do a set of squats. Yeah. But I haven't done any of those for 3 months. So with this challenge that I'm doing at the moment, the Push for Better thing, so it is supposed to be push-ups, but they say, look, obviously mix it up so you're not, number one, completely wrecked in your chest, but also number two, so your body's not uneven.
Yep.
So from the beginning of the month, I was doing push-ups one day and then bent over rows the next day and then back to push-ups. I've actually changed that up based on these results because if I'm losing muscle mass in my legs, so I'm going push-ups, bent over rows, and then kettlebell squats. So just with like a 16 kilo kettlebell, like a loaded front squat, to try to make sure that I'm not atrophying my legs too much. But mate, congratulations, they're really, really good results.
Now, I think I said on the last pod that I wanted to get 3%, but that was me having no idea how any of this works.
Yeah,
so I'm happy with 2.
Well, that's the thing. That's why in my head I'm like, I just want to see that I'm losing body fat and I'm putting muscle on. The percentage will be what the percentage is at the end of that, but those are the things that I'm looking at. I want to lose body fat and I want to put muscle on. So for me, my number one thing was losing fat, because again, when my training has been so interrupted, I could still do some diet stuff.
For sure.
Right? So for me to lose almost 2 kilos in body fat, I was really, really happy with that result. The training will be what it will be, and I think that now that I'm on the up, I definitely think that this next 3-month block, I can go a little bit harder in the training and be more consistent in the training. But all in all, I think these scans show you the importance of getting scans and getting real data, because how much more motivated are we now?
Yeah.
Like, consider what most normal people go through. Like, you've been very, very consistent, you're paying money, you're seeing a trainer, and like you said, the weight on the scale stayed the same for the whole 3 months.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So if you don't...
And I wouldn't, if I didn't do the scan, I wouldn't know about the potential for osteoporosis.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
So at least now we're taking these steps to know where are the gaps in our body health, and we can actually take the steps to counteract that. Same as being able to add squats back in. All right, cool. I've lost my muscle mass in my legs and I put it on my upper body. All right, so let's throw some squats in and make sure I'm doing the right thing. So
surely there is variations that you could do. Like, couldn't you just dumbbell up and do lunges? Like, wouldn't that?
Yeah, look,
you could get the same effect.
For sure, it's not as efficient when you can't lift heavy.
Yeah, but don't forget, I have not done squats. I only did it for testing.
Yeah, for sure. But I have, you've been doing a lot of deadlifts too. I haven't done any heavy deadlifts either.
Deadlifts.
Yeah.
Well, you've got the weight now.
I've got the weight, but again, I've been sick.
Yeah.
And the problem is too, with the inner ear stuff that I had, which maybe this might be a segue into that. When you've got like a cold or something like that, and then whatever, and then you like, say you lift something heavy and you feel that strain and the pressure inside your head and you get like the ears popping and stuff like that.
Someone with as much muscle mass as me doesn't have, I don't have that.
So any of you out there who can do more than 2 chin-ups, you know what I'm talking about. And you're not at advanced risk of osteoporosis as a 35-year-old male, you know that. But now I've lost my train of thought. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so when I attempted to lift heavy, I was getting really bad pressure and pain in my ear, so I've just not done it.
Yeah.
So, segue, BPPV, ear issues. So, as of yesterday, it's been about a month that I've been struggling with this, and it was a really, really interesting experience. So, I went to 2 different doctors during the last few weeks. Both of them told me the same thing. You've just got loose crystals in your ear. So, ear infection was the first thing. Mm-hmm. They gave me antibiotics for the ear infection. And then they were like, you've got loose crystals in your ear, and they'll just sort themselves out. That's what 2 different doctors told me. Mm-hmm. So then I played Google Doctor, which I spoke about last week, and I came across BPPV, which my symptoms mirrored what I'd read about that particular disorder. Came across this thing they call the Epley maneuver, which is a series of movements which are designed to get you to remove these ear crystals from your ear canal. And I performed that about just over a week ago, performed that maneuver, and got some degree of relief after doing that, but was still dizzy most of the day. Not the full room spinning vertigo like I started with, but still relatively dizzy for most of the day, getting really fatigued as well. Mm-hmm. And I had mild headaches for the past 2 to 3 weeks. And I never get headaches. I didn't get headaches from a hangover. So that was obviously a key indicator for me. So I'd done all this research and I found the GC physio in Ashmore. There's a lady there who actually specialises in BPPV treatment. So I booked in and had the session yesterday, and it was super interesting. I felt like I was in an episode of House, because she's so knowledgeable on the subject. Yeah. And so we've gone through this...
And a prick.
And old. But, so she's gone through this questionnaire.
And putting on a fake accent.
Yeah.
I'm actually British.
Yeah. So this questionnaire that she's gone through is, it felt like she was a detective and it was an investigation because she was trying to get me to think back right to the first day and stepping it through and
Sure.
everything that happened. What were the sensations?
Ascertaining a timeline.
Yeah, well, timeline, but also. So anyway, I'll wrap it all up in a moment. But so we went through. We did the questionnaire stuff. She did some very basic sitting in front of me and having just my head stay straight, my eyes following her finger stuff to look for any irregularities in my eye movement. Then we did some exercises where they strap these goggles to your head. And so imagine like swimming goggles. Mm-hmm. And one of them is completely blacked out, but it's got a camera in it. Mm-hmm. The other one starts and it's open, so your eye can be exposed to light. Mm-hmm. And the theory is that both your eyes will do the same thing regardless. So if there's light on one side, your cameraed eye will still do the same movements. And we did a series of maneuvers with the goggles on, and they actually, how good's technology these days, plug it into her iPhone. There's an app in there that they use to like record your eye movements and everything so you can watch it all back. Mm-hmm. So we did all these movements with that on. Then she covered up the other goggles, so I'm completely in the dark, did all these other exercises and stuff like that as well. Record all that sort of stuff. And then at the end of it, she did like, it was really interesting, did an eye test. So you know when you go to get glasses, you sit there and they've got the page on the wall with all the letters on it. So at the beginning...
Other letters.
Yeah. So at the beginning, you're just sitting there going squiggly lines.
You're like, hieroglyphics?
Yeah. So sitting there reading through it from top to bottom, and then she's like, okay, so that's your baseline. Now I want you to do it again. And she stood behind me and she wobbled my head the whole time I was doing it. And when I got to the point where I couldn't read them anymore, and I could tell I was straining too to try to read these things. So I was 3 lines above where a normal person who's got no issues will get to 2 lines above. Yep. I was 3 lines above when I made a mistake, which indicates there's a problem. So it turns out I did have BPPV mm-hmm. because my symptoms were completely in line with what someone would expect. But I also had a secondary thing called vestibular neurosis. Mm-hmm. And the reason why she could ascertain that is because the first day, and it was really the first couple of days when it hit me, I was out. I had to sit on the couch with my eyes closed because the room was spinning all day. And BPPV stands for benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Right. So keyword being positional. So if you get that room spinning sensation, normally with BPPV, that will subside as it normally happens, you move your head and the crystal dislodges and it starts moving in the fluid, and then once it stops, the symptoms stop. Yeah. The fact that it happened for multiple days straight meant that it was this vestibular neurosis as well, because that is inflammation or damage to your vestibular nerve that's in your inner ear. Mm-hmm. So doctor sort of had a middle ear infection. Looks like I had both, middle and inner. She also said she had the shits too, that the doctors didn't refer me to someone, because she goes, they diagnosed you with a middle ear infection, but they should know that middle ear infection can't dislodge crystals. Ah, okay. Because they're actually located in your inner ear. Yeah. So she thought she had the shits for that. So, funnily enough, she goes, because when we did all the testing, all the BPPV symptoms had gone. Mm. She goes, you've actually cured yourself of BPPV by doing the Epley maneuver. But the reason why you didn't get as much relief as you were expecting was because you had this vestibular neurosis. Yeah. So she's given me exercises to do to strengthen the connection between that nerve, my brain, but also my eyes. Yeah. So it's all balance and eyesight exercises. Yeah. So it's things like...
Is there on this sheet, is there lean muscle mass for the eye holes?
As you're the guy sitting there with glasses on, I don't think you want to talk about the strength of your eye organs.
I'm growing too much eyeball, mate. Yeah. Just on one side of your eye.
So yeah, they're really interesting. So it's things like standing up with my feet in line. So obviously it's difficult to balance, and holding this little piece of paper with an X on it and moving it from side to side and tracking it with my eyes and trying to stay upright. Then there's another one of standing with my feet tight, close together, so it's a little bit easier to stand, but sort of moving it side to side, but moving my head in the opposite direction and keeping my eyes on it. And then the third one is standing on one leg with my eyes closed and trying to balance, and just running through these things for, it's a minute, and then 30 seconds each leg, and then doing that 5 times.
Do you know, it's funny, I've seen that exercise regime before in an old, 1950s men's health magazine.
Really?
Yeah, and it talked about to build concentration.
Okay.
And one of the other ones they said was look at yourself in the mirror, eyeball to eyeball for 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd seen things like that.
Is that like giving yourself a checkup from the neck up?
No, it was just, I think it was just about trying to focus on something.
Yeah.
You know, because we would do it, and then the phone would come up. We'd flick it through Instagram, you know.
And we'd be watching the RDO podcast.
Yeah.
So
Like and subscribe.
Super interesting.
So so you got to do have you done any of the exercises?
So I did them yesterday. Really taxing on my brain.
Yeah.
So you run through the 3 different exercises 5 times total, so it's 15 minutes total. And by the end of it, I could feel the brain drain going. Sure. And the whole idea of it is you're literally exercising that nerve, and you're helping to repair the connection between it and your brain. Because essentially what happens with that vestibular neurosis is, because it's damaged, it's just sitting there in the background sending the wrong signals to your brain all day.
Yeah, okay.
So it completely adds up to, the fatigue that I've been experiencing is because my brain is spending so much neural energy counteracting the faulty signals it's getting.
Yeah.
By the afternoon, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and it must be using resources from the muscles in your legs too.
Yeah, well, it would make sense.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to try to find the best energy that you can get. So it's gone to the bad boys.
Not much there. Oh, sorry. Have you?
And I said a little bit more. So I've got to do those exercises for a week and go back. But she also said that in a typical person, it takes about 6 weeks for the vestibular neurosis to completely heal itself. Now, these exercises should speed it up a little bit, but I'm 3.5, 4 weeks into the 6-week period. So hopefully in a couple more weeks' time, I'll be completely golden. But the other thing too, interesting, what the headaches were from. So the headaches are not related to this per se. She goes, it's really, really common. She goes, you haven't had BPV for a week since you've healed it with the Epley maneuver. But she goes, have you avoided the movements that would normally set it off? I said, yeah, absolutely. So normally turning to my right or putting my head back would set off the BPPV. And she goes, yeah, this happens all the time. Your neck muscles are so tense because you're trying to keep your head straight all day, every day, because you're so paranoid about it. I was actually getting a strained headache.
Oh, interesting. It's like what an office worker would get.
Yeah, same sort of thing. So literally as soon as I've had it diagnosed that the BPV is no longer there, I already feel better because I'm not so paranoid about head movements and stuff anymore.
You need to put on headphones and listen to The Art of Shredding by Pantera.
Yeah,
that'll get your neck moving.
Yeah, it'll probably rupture my inner ear again.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it was a really interesting experience, and to me, it showed the positives of listening to your body and playing Google Doctor.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I had 2 doctors tell me, just wait, it'll sort itself out.
Yeah.
But then I've had an actual specialist in the field say, she was stoked that I went online and actually researched it myself, and I attempted the maneuver.
Well, what I was most surprised about is in your version of this story is saying that there is someone that specialises in this thing that I've never heard of.
Yeah. Well, I'd never heard of it either.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the medical information that I was given was, you've got loose ear crystals. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
I had no idea. So, went home, did the research. So you can't, if you get news from a doctor and you just don't feel like it's either A, helpful, or B, right. I'm never a big fan of being told, you've got an issue, just do nothing. Surely there's something that you can do for most issues, conditions, whatever, to at least help your improvement. Surely. In more cases than not.
Well, even if you just think about it from a practical standpoint, you've spent... How long do you really spend at the doctor's office? Like your GP, 5 minutes?
Well, yeah, I made the crack. No, I think it's less than that.
Yeah.
I made the crack, I think it was last pod or maybe the pod before. I think I've been to the GP 15 times in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Not just for me, but also for Nate as well. I reckon I have spent a total of 20 minutes inside a GP's office. So they just whip you in and whip you out.
Even if you do find out from the doctor what it is, I'd be going home and researching that thing as well. Because there will be... Look, there might be something as little as, stay away from salt during that, where your doctor hasn't... And you don't expect your doctor to tell you that.
Yeah.
But if you do a little bit of research, you might go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do whatever it takes to advance my position.
Yeah.
And do that research yourself.
Well, even so, because I got my ear infection after Nate had an ear infection, so we must have got the same viral issue which caused ear infections. But even like the girl at the daycare centre was asking about Nate when he had the ear infection. And she's like, oh, just make sure that you don't put his head underwater. And then we're like, what? And she goes, yeah, it's really bad because if they get water in their ears, it makes the infection's really bad. So this kid's on antibiotics from the doctors. Doctors didn't tell us not to put his head underwater. Like, that stuff's really important information to know. So I would encourage anyone who, if you have some sort of health issue and you don't feel like you're getting the right...
Or even if you are.
If
you're getting the right information, just do more research.
Do more research. Do some stuff online yourself. Again, look at it with open eyes. Like Alex said the other week, don't just assume the worst every single time. Go to multiple sources. Get a second opinion from another doctor. And if you feel like it's something... Like, I've rarely seen specialists in the past, but this thing was just debilitating. Like, having a kid at home and... I was so concerned about things like he'd be in the bath and then my head would start spinning. Like, what if I pass out and he falls over in the bath and drowns? Like, that stuff's concerning. It was debilitating to have this condition, so I sought professional help for it. And I'm really, really glad that I did. Because now I'm actually on the pathway to recovery. And a lot of the issues that I was experiencing now were actually being manufactured by me thinking that I still had the BPPV when I didn't.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, definitely. But yeah, super interesting experience.
So I want to talk about my favourite topic, which is the NRL. So I watched the full game.
Oh, sorry, can I just interject one last thing from the fitness testing?
Yeah.
Which I've just looked over and seen, according to the BMI, I've slipped down into the overweight category instead of being obese.
I think mine still says obese. Hold on. I did see it. I didn't look at it properly, but... Obesity 1, bruv.
Yeah,
I'm still at obesity 1.
So,
but how does that work?
Because it's just based on kilos and height. That's all it is. So because you're heavier than me, even though it's lean mass, and this is the illustration of why the BMI ain't shit. So Alex has got about 6 or 7 kilos more lean mass than I do, but because you're slightly heavier, you're obese and I'm overweight.
And do you know it's got a little note here. Do you know who comes up with the BMI? The World Health Organization. So it says here, World Health Organization Body Mass Index Classification, WHO Classification Obesity 1. Just another example.
The World Health Organization also doesn't think that Taiwan's a country. So anyway, moving on.
Right, John Cena. So, I watched the full State of Origin game.
So, I'm impressed that you did.
Yeah.
And surprised that you did.
And I'm glad I did not. It was a shit game. And I want to give you the idiot's guide, my critique of the Queensland team.
I'm not going to say anything. I want to hear your perspective on it. Because I also find it interesting that you said it's a shit game right from the start.
So, New South Wales deserved to win. They played... I couldn't see the strength in the New South Wales team. I could see the weakness in the Queensland team. And where I was instantly concerned was, I reckon, in the first 10 minutes, the amount of times when Queensland had possession and they just finished a tackle, there was a bunch of guys all packed together, slowly walking back to get in line, in this bunch, all packed up, where like 2 guys down, the tackles happen and then they're passing off. To me, they were not in the game. They had... Having that massive clump just created massive opportunities for New South Wales. And New South Wales just picked them apart. Like, literally picked them apart. I don't think they had a strong finish at the end of their sets.
Queensland?
Yeah, they didn't seem to do anything or progress anywhere. Like, and you could see them kind of looking for, like, you know, on the fifth tackle, they're like, they didn't have a set plan, whereas New South Wales seemed to have like a real thought out strategy that they just kept milking, and it worked, 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 and it worked. I want to say that I think the refs were good. I think there was like maybe one contentious call, which was a that I deemed as contentious, but probably not, which was a linesman called a obstruction.
Yeah.
But that was like the only, you know, that wasn't game changing. So, reffing good. New South Wales obviously good. Queensland, not even playing the same sport. That was my.
So that's your critique of it.
That was my critique.
So it's important to note that because you're not an NRL fan, and everything the NRL has done in recent years is to try to bring other people into the game. So as someone who is not an NRL fan, watching the showpiece event of the NRL season and having that response to it, that's obviously a bad thing. So there's a few things to unpack out of that. Firstly, I'm going to say, on the refereeing front, I agree with you, was refereed extremely well. However, it wasn't refereed in line with what they've been doing on weekends, because I think that the NRL has gone, we're getting so much heat because of all the send-offs. If we send off someone in this game, there's literally going to be riots.
For sure.
So there were probably at least 3 or 4 instances of penalties given that on the weekend would have been send-offs, and they didn't send the players off. So people are already shitty about that. Okay. Because I agree, that's the way the game should be reffed. Like,
that's something we spoke about. Like, I think we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
You said that the Origin wasn't going to be ref like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because they didn't want to ruin the game.
Yeah.
And I believe the refereeing was perfect. That's how I'd like to see it reffed.
Yeah. Yep.
There were a few contentious calls. There always is. 50-50 calls, depending on what side of the fence you're on, someone's going to be unhappy, right? But there's probably the biggest example of one that I can think of off the top of my head was when one of the Queensland forwards, Mo Fonowaker, ran out of the line and took Latrell Mitchell out long after he'd already released the ball. That would have been a send-off on the weekend under the current rules, and he didn't get sent off. So they actually, the change in refereeing probably benefited Queensland. But this is where I've got a bit of an issue with where the state of the game is at now. Is blowout scores are becoming more and more prevalent in the game. And the reason is this, the 6 again rule. So right from the beginning of the match, New South Wales was on the attack. They put a kick in, and we gave away a penalty because Daly Cherry Evans shepherded someone off the ball when they were trying to make an attacking play.
Dumb.
And the penalty got given. Now, that shepherding act gets done week in, week out, and that's a 50-50 call every time. So I'll admit, I was surprised when they called that a penalty right at the beginning of an Origin game. It did surprise me. I thought it was a bit soft.
I remember that one.
Yep.
And I'm like, I would counter your argument with, don't do it. You know you're going to get popped for it.
No, but that's the thing, you don't. And if you watch the NRL every weekend, you'll realise why they do it, because they don't always get popped for it. It's literally every attacking high kick, someone tries to shepherd a player off the ball.
Yeah, okay.
It's every time, and they often don't get caught.
That needs some work then.
That's right. It needs to be more black and white. And what I will say, just to throw it out there, Richie McCaw is widely regarded as the greatest rugby union player of all time. He was the New Zealand captain forever. His hallmark to his career was that everyone knew he always played on the borderline of foul play.
Sure.
That's why he was so effective, because he was the best guy at breaking the rules without getting caught. Right? So every high-performance organisation is trying to do that in every sport, no matter what you play.
I agree with that.
So the problem with the 6 again rule, so we gave away a penalty, New South Wales scores, they get the ball back. The next play is probably one that you're thinking of, which was when New South Wales were attacking, they've kicked in behind, and Kyle Felt has taken out Josh Adokar, who was running down the sideline, who was no chance of getting to the ball anyway, but that was when he turned around and backed into him, gives away a penalty. So then the problem is you've got the most high intensity clash that you can, and it's a state of origin. Like NRL is always about field position, and state of origin even more so because you've got the best of the best playing each other. So the defenses are usually very, very strong. So depending on where you start your sets on the field is going to dictate how effective you can be, because you're rarely going to get, someone making a break on their own 20-metre line and being able to meet up the under and score a try. So right off the get-go, the possession was well and truly weighted in New South Wales' favour because we'd given away penalties.
For sure.
Queensland had given away penalties.
Stupid penalties.
Stupid penalties, for sure. The Kyle Felt one, that was really dumb.
Yeah.
That was really, really dumb.
Yeah, let him go. Let him chase it into the end.
Yeah, and again, that's half the problem too, is that, again, a lot of people get shepherded off the ball every single weekend and nothing gets called.
Yeah.
So that's a 50-50 call, and if the 50-50 in State of Origin, which normally those games are decided by 2 or 4 points, is to take out the guy off the run who's the fastest dude on the field, who's trying to chase down a score or try, maybe you would do that.
But the player needed to understand that there was no way, even at full flight, that guy was ever going to make it to the ball. Like, it was a Queenslander's mistake.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
But then the problem is that, so now you've got a situation where in the first 15 minutes, Queensland is already being dominated field position-wise. Then the next thing happens, which Christian Welch, who is our best prop and our most experienced prop, who was the guy who was really for Queensland making it happen in the forwards, he got a head injury and went off for a head injury assessment, and he didn't come back for the rest of the game. So our forward stocks were already a bit thin because Josh Papali, who's probably one of the best props in the comp, he was out, I think, because of suspension, he was out. So we already didn't have him. And another guy who did a really good job for us last year is called Lindsay Collins, who was out because of injury as well. So 2 out of our top 3 best props were already out. Then our third one goes off. Now, when you're in a situation when you're camped on your own line and you just can't get out of your own half, that's when you need those big experienced guys to lead from the front and get you out of there. So then you've got the issue where it gets compounded again because we're already tired from all the defensive work that we've done because we've given New South Wales the bulk of the possession. You've then got the best prop get sent off. So our forwards really, they're young guys that looked very aimless, but you're under so much pressure because you got to think too, this whole time you're tired, New South Wales is super fresh because all they're doing is attacking. There's no defending that they're doing. So they've got all the energy in the world when you do get the ball to rush up on defense and keep you in half.
But explain to me why the Queensland line on attack was, but they seemed tired, and the point that they were at the halfway mark, and I'm looking at these guys facing the wrong way on attack. There was like 6 blokes together, and I'm thinking, what are you doing?
They're wrecked. So when you've got a massive weight of possession against you and all you're doing is defending, so you got to think.
But they weren't defending. This is what I'm saying.
No, but they were defending before that.
Yeah.
So because they had to defend so hard, and then you've got to think too, when your best prop goes off after 13 minutes, that stuffs up your forward rotations as well. Because you're thinking you're getting a minimum 25 minutes out of him. So then you had Tino Fa'asul Malawi, who should have probably only played 25 and then gone off for a stint. He had to play the first 40 minutes. So he's stuffed.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is that with the 6 again rule, it does make it exciting because when you're giving away these ruck infringements, they just give another set and another set and another set. And it's defend. That by the time you get the ball, you don't have the energy to get out of your own half. And then that's why... Now look, New South Wales played one of the most complete games I've ever seen at Origin level. Tommy Trbojevic and Latrell Mitchell... It was super interesting the way that Brad Fittler used those guys because it was like old school football where... this is something that you probably wouldn't understand as not a big NRL fan. So back in the day, the centres, so the centres are the guys inside the wingers, they often used to play on the same side and play as a tandem. So they would play off each other.
That's mental to me that a centre is off the one side. That's the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah, but...
So the inception of the game, you did it wrong. The centre's on the side. Well, no. You should be called a winglet. So you're not
winglet, yeah.
You're not on the wing. You're a little bit in. You're the winglet.
Yeah, well, we're also in a country that uses the metric system, and the number 6 position is a 5/8. So,
oh my god!
So, But so back in the day, the centres would quite often play as like a tandem on attack. Now in the NRL over the last however many years, that went away because they were so worried about having set defensive lines and whether or not players would be able to get back onto like their defensive positions, that they kept them split on the opposite side of the field.
So there's two centres.
Yeah, two centres.
Okay. So technically, there's only really one centre.
So two wingers.
In mathematics,
Two centres.
the centre of something is a one-off.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. It's not a... Look, there's a lot of maths in the sport, but it's very simple maths.
Do they know it?
Is it, on this side of the field, we've got 3 players versus 4 defenders. On that side of the field, we've got 4 attackers versus 3 defenders. Let's go that side of the field. That's the extent of the mathematics that goes on in rugby league.
I think that's called mathematics.
Yeah, mathematics. Yeah. But it was so interesting because Fielder got criticised last year for picking fullbacks to fill up pretty much his whole back line. Because they're not like the centre is a very specialist position to defend because out of everywhere on the field, they're probably the position that has to make the most one-on-one tackles.
Right.
And to do that, you need to make correct defensive decisions.
Yep.
Because if you stuff it up, the other team's going to score.
Yeah.
Because if you miss your tackle, they've got a 2-on-1 down the side and you're stuffed.
So who won the last series?
Queensland did.
Okay.
So Queensland, who was called the worst team in Origin history, ended up winning the series last year.
Okay.
Right.
And is this in terms of the Queensland squad compared to last year?
We're probably worse because we've had a lot of our key players were injured.
Okay.
So no, and I say key players. All I'm saying, Josh Papali, Kalen Ponga, they were injured and out, and we also had Cameron Munster and Harry Grant come into the team. They hadn't played a game in a month because they've both been under injury clouds. Okay. So we're a bit underdone.
But not 50 to 6.
Not 50 to 6 underdone.
Yeah.
No way. But getting back to Trell and Tommy Turbo, it was the greatest centre pairing performance I've ever seen in the history of State of Origin.
Really?
It was amazing.
This is big for you.
It's huge. I mean, I'm a Queensland guy.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the game just to watch the best of the best do their thing. It was crazy. And what I found so interesting, so dangerous about the New South Wales team is, so in their back line, you've got Tedesco, who's the world's best fullback at fullback. You've got Tommy Turbo, who's the second best fullback at centre. You've got Latrell Mitchell, who's probably the third best fullback at the other centre. But what fullbacks do is they inject themselves normally in the game when they see attacking opportunities.
Right, okay.
But they also are acutely aware of opportunities to follow up, like on the inside or the outside, when something's happening, just in case something happens. So you normally only have one guy on the field who's doing that.
They had 3.
They had 3.
Yeah,
and they were everywhere.
It showed because they like the amount of just they're pulling gaps out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
and what happened, I think
the mechanics of it is
because you think all these teams are so defensively drilled to have a centre on each side. Then what was happening is Turbo was just popping up on the other side of the field. So then they had an overlap.
Yeah.
Right? And
because the fullbacks they're scanning to look for these opportunities.
Yeah. Whereas normally, like, a lot of centres get criticised for not getting into the game enough because they normally sit on their side of the field, and if the ball's on the other side of the field, they don't make any runs or anything like that, so they can quite often go missing. So that was one of the knocks on Greg Inglis's career when he was sitting at centre. Everyone wanted him to go to fullback so he'd get his hands on the ball more because he just used to sit on his side. He was the most damaging guy on the planet when they got him the ball, but if they didn't get him the ball, he didn't go looking for it.
Sure.
Tommy Turbo went looking for it, and it was just beautiful to watch. I think Turbo had 3 tries, Latrell had 2 tries, and I'm pretty sure they both had somewhere in the vicinity of 2 or 3 try assists between them.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 centres who, normally centres can score tries, but normally it's the wingers.
Yeah.
But you got 2 centres with like 8 try involvements in a State of Origin game.
Yeah,
it was the greatest centre pairing performance I've ever seen.
Do you think that will change the makeup? I always think about these things. When you see a dominance like that in that way, and when you can break it down that way, do you change the way that you play the game? Like, does that become a trend?
Maybe. I don't know if you can have that trend at club level because you can't afford to have players who are good enough to make those decisions and not have defensive lapses. Like, they need to be able to get back into the position on defense. Like, Turbo's been a bit injured over the last few years, and he came back from injury this year. But the involvements that he's had, like to put it in perspective, Manly were I think 15th or something while he was injured at the start of the season. They've come back. They look like they'll challenge for the premiership. Like they're that good with that one bloke in the team. He's the only difference that they've had. He is just a freak. And as a fullback, the guy's like 6'4", probably 100, just over 100 kilos. So he's a big, tall body. He's got the biggest motor on the planet as well. Like he can run all game. But he gets involved with the tough stuff too. Like right from the beginning of the game, I'm pretty sure Turbo took 2 runs in the first set.
Yeah.
So normally, the first set's dominated by forwards, and it's just hit-ups. Yeah. It's just give it to a prop,
5 metres,
hit it up, hit him up, hit him up. I'm pretty sure in the first set, Turbo had 2 runs, and James Tedesco had 2 runs as well. Unheard of at Origin level.
Yeah.
So I've never seen Freddie Fittler coach a better game.
Yeah.
I think his game plan was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Queensland's issues were exacerbated by the early penalties they gave away.
Yeah.
And I think in the new form of the game with the 6 again rule, once you lose control at the beginning of the game, it is almost impossible to turn it around. Because you just don't have the legs underneath you. It is so tiring on defense now. You just don't have the legs underneath you to get out of your own half again.
Yeah, but see, my brain goes, okay, well, if you've because I agree with you, if you've had to do 12 sets basically on defense, well, then I would be okay. We might have to concede this try, but let's not do that again. You know, let's not give away any. Let's be super focused on playing the standard bread and butter game. Not trying to get fancy, not trying to obstruct, not trying to... Do you know what I mean? Like, just play...
But that sounds great until then you give away the next ruck infringement. And then it's 6 again on the 5th tackle. And then they're coming at you again. Yeah. So you got to think about, in the old game before the 6 again rule, you gave away a ruck infringement, they'd call a penalty, and then you'd be able to stand around for 2 minutes while they set up and kick the penalty goal.
Yeah.
In the new game, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
They give an extra 6 tackles. And then you give away another ruck infringement, they get an extra 6 tackles. So instead of defending 5 tackles and having a 2-minute break, you're defending 18 tackles in a row.
Yeah.
And you've got to think of how physically taxing it is when they're not one-on-one tackles. So you've got to think if a ball runner is running the ball, I'm one player exerting myself at this moment, and then I have 2 or 3 players running out of the line, grabbing me, wrestling me to the ground. So 1 involvement, 3 involvements.
Yeah.
So then you think of how much that multiplies when you're defending 6, 12, 18 tackles in a row. You've had 18 players exert themselves. They've had 18 times 3 exert themselves.
So if 6 again's not the answer and the penalty's not the answer, what is the answer?
Look,
tap and run?
No, I think the 6 again rule, I do like it. It does make the games entertaining. If I had to make a decision to better the game, prevent blowouts, and have favourable player outcomes, I would increase the bench from 4 players to 6 players, and I would allow for two or four additional interchanges so you can have more fresh players on the field. That's what I would do, because the games are entertaining. But the other thing too is that NRL's always been a gladiatorial sport, and what I really used to enjoy about games way back in the day was, so when I say back in the day, I mean when I started watching, which was the 90s, the Broncos teams, the reason why the Broncos beat all the other teams was because they were the fittest. So it didn't matter, they could be 20 points down, but as soon as the 60th minute mark hit, they would just roll over the top of teams every time, because they were the fittest team. And you don't want to remove that fatigue element from the war of attrition, because we sort of did that a little while ago too, and then you got the spate of just every team would just pack their bench with the biggest, fastest, most aggressive interchange forwards that you can, and they would come on, they'd only play for 10 minutes at a time. They would just belt the crap out of the other team, then go off, and that wasn't what we wanted either.
Yeah.
So I do like the 6 again rule. I just feel like with the 6 again rule around, we're seeing so many more blowouts, and that will continue until potentially some other mitigating changes are made. Because by the time, if you give away 3 6 again, I don't know how many ruck infringements they gave away to get 6 against, but I reckon it was multiples.
Yeah.
If you give away 3 or 4 of those in the first 20 minutes, you're pretty much done for the game. Yeah.
Speaking of done, I'm done.
You're done?
I'm done.
you're done.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. All right, guys. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next RDO.